everybody, and welcome back. We're ready to start a brand new chapter. Your parents should have picked up your papers and a copy of your notes that you're going to be filling out as you watch the videos and such. Make sure you keep filling in those notes because that's where your information for your homework, that's where your information from your tests comes from. It comes from your notes. There's also going to be some questions and things on the videos you watch. Please remember that if there's a video that is in the assignments in that folder, I expect you to watch it. It's not just a video for fun. It's mandatory. You need to watch every video because they really do help explain a lot better the materials that we're trying to learn. It's kind of hard with us all being at home, that a lot of things that we would pick up from each other in discussion, we can't pick up because we're sitting here doing this all by ourselves. So I put a lot of videos in. Hopefully I find ones that are interesting to you. Hopefully you enjoy them. Just some housekeeping issues to keep in track. If you send your homework by picture, if you take a picture of your homework and you email me the picture, please make sure that you do your homework in pen and not in pencil. It's very, very hard to read the pencil when it's a photograph of your homework. So please make sure that you use pen. And speaking of those photographs, your photograph should be of just that page, not 2 or 3 pages at once, not the page and all the materials that are next to the page. Your picture should be just the picture of the page itself. I would check before you send the picture. Make sure that it's not blurry. I know sometimes I take pictures and they're blurry and you can't read the words. So please do check. Check to make sure that the picture you took is not blurry, that it's easy to be read. And you'll see if you ever try and take a picture of one with pencil, it's kind of hard to read them with a pencil. So please make sure you write in pen. A couple other things. Please make sure you check your email every day. Sometimes I write back and the answer goes to your email and you get the idea that I'm not answering you, but it's because it's in your email. Or there might be special announcements there. Also check GradeLink, because GradeLink is where all of your assignments are listed. It's where when I receive it and I grade your homework, it's where you'll see your grade. So it's a really good thing to check GradeLink at least every other day to make sure that you've handed in everything, to make sure you've gotten a grade. And if you see something after a couple days that doesn't have a grade in it, go ahead and pop me an email and say, just checking to make sure you got this. Because we have had some issues in the past. Hopefully we're beyond those. Let's see. Oh, one last thing. Don't forget, just like it is in our classroom, you always have one chance to correct any homework and any labs that we do. You are able to correct those things and pass them back in for getting half credit back. So please, please, if you would like to, correct your work. Now, I do not force you to correct your work. It is entirely up to you. I would encourage you to do it, and usually when I get your papers back, I write down different questions you got wrong, or I write down things like check your notes, page 4, or stuff like that to try and help you. But it's up to you to decide to correct it. I would, if it is possible, if you remember this, if you send something back that you've corrected, could you send me an email just saying, I corrected, I don't know, ecology homework, or I corrected cell homework, or whatever it is that you corrected, just so that I know, because sometimes those are the things that I miss, because once I've corrected it, I don't look at it again. So that would be really helpful too. Whew, I think that's all of them. We are down to the ecosystem, so let's get started. By definition, an ecosystem is all the living and non-living parts of an area and their interactions with each other. So let's break that down. All the living parts. So take a look at this picture. There's deer, there's fish, there's turtles, there's frogs. There's also plants and bugs and flowers. There's a lot of living things in this area. So all the living things. And all the non-living things. The log's no longer alive. Water isn't alive. The oxygen in the air, that's not alive. The dirt, that's not alive. The sunlight coming, the wind, the water, all of those things are non-living. So the interactions, how they respond to each other, how they need each other, how they work with each other. So all the living and non-living parts of an area and their interactions with each other. That's what an ecosystem is. Now we have two words that we use instead of living and non-living. We use biotic and abiotic. And you see on your notes there's two boxes. One has the word abiotic in it. One has the word biotic in it. Abiotic means non-living. And so let's get some ideas of things that are non-living and write them into this box. I'm going to give you 5 different non-living things that you can write in this box. And right next to the word, write the word non-living. So some things that are in an ecosystem that are non-living. Light, temperature, soil, wind, and water. I'll say those guys again. So some of the things that interact in an ecosystem that are abiotic, non-living, are light, temperature, soil, wind, or waves for that matter, and water. And the things that are biotic means living. So the things that you could write into that box for biotic, could write the word living because biotic means living. Plants, animals, bacteria, fungus, anything that's alive is part of the biotic. If you notice, bio is the prefix, it means life. So when we study biology, we study the study of life. Well, we can organize, just like we did in the last chapter, where we organized cells into tissues, into organs, into organ systems, into organisms. We can also build on that from the organism up. And these are the things that are interacting with each other. Now on your notes, you have this almost in reverse order of what's on the screen. You have organism down on the bottom, then you have population, then community, then ecosystem, and the biosphere. So we're going to fill out those little squares that are next to those words, but keep in mind they go backwards from the way that this one is written. The first one we're going to look at is organism. That was the top of our list when we did our cell chapter. An organism is an individual member of a species. So at your home, maybe Fluffy is your cat. Fluffy is an organism. It's just one member of the species of cat that your cat is. Or maybe your your dog is Killer the Wonder Dog. Well, he's an organism. He is one individual of the species of dog that he belongs to. Maybe they're all pug dogs, or maybe they're all Labrador retrievers, but he's one of them, and he's an organism, an individual member of a species. And there's an organism. A population, though, and we're talking about in an ecosystem, we're talking about a specific area. A population is all the same species in that ecosystem. So if you notice the picture up at the top, we had the organism of being a fish. And then a population is all of the members of that same species that are in the ecosystem. So all the red-headed, yellow-tailed fish. whatever they are. Or if we were at a zoo, we would talk about all the lions in the zoo. They are a population, the population of lions in the zoo. It's not all the animals, it's just that species. That's what a population is. Here's a population of fish. A community, on the other hand, is all the biotic part of an ecosystem. So what does biotic mean? It means living. So in an ecosystem, if we were talking about everything that's alive in the ecosystem, we would talk about the community, the biotic part of an ecosystem. And in this picture, if you notice, there's bugs and bacteria, there's flowers and shrubs, there's a hawk in the shrub, there's a bird flying, there's antelope and flowers, and looks like a little Gila monster on, and a rabbit, and all the living things in this picture are part of the community that live in that section, in that ecosystem. Now, an ecosystem is all the biotic and the abiotic parts together, and how they interact. Abiotic means non-living, biotic means living. So I'm back to the same picture. Is there a biotic community here? Sure there are. All the different things that are alive in that picture. But there's a lot of abiotic in that picture also. There's soil in which the living grass grows. There's rocks that are slowly being broken down to make soil. There's air that all these creatures are breathing. There's carbon dioxide that the plants are needing to do their photosynthesis, and there's carbon dioxide coming out of the lungs of all the animals. There is energy in the air that's providing a temperature. So how the temperature is determines what kind of animals can live in this area. As all of these things interact, you have an ecosystem. All the living and non-living parts of an area and their interactions together. When you get bigger, when you look all the way out at our world, whenever we're talking about living creatures that live here on the earth, we know that they live in the biosphere. It's not really a place. It is just an area the size of the earth where anywhere on the earth where life can exist. Can it exist on the bottom of the ocean? Absolutely. Can it exist in the highest mountains? Yep. How about down in the ground, a mile down into the ground? Can it exist there? Yeah, we even find bacteria and all sorts of things down there. So anywhere that life can exist on the earth, we refer to that as the biosphere. It's kind of a category that scientists like to use so that when they're talking to somebody and they're talking about the biosphere, the other person already knows, okay, we're talking about the living things that are here. We're not talking about rock formation. We're not talking about how a volcano works. We're talking about life. So the biosphere. There's a beautiful picture of our Earth. All right, we already mentioned that all the biotic organisms together make up a community. And here you see above a pond and below a pond. One of the interesting things is, even though they all live at the pond, they don't actually all live at the same place in the ecosystem. The animals up at the top, they're living where they are needing oxygen from the air. The tree certainly can't get oxygen out of the water. They're living where the temperature is different than the fish down on the bottom of the pond. So even when you have a community around a pond, you still have different parts of the ecosystem. You have bacteria that live inside the water that can't come out into the air. You have plants that can't exist out of the water, and you have plants that exist in the water. So could we take like the fish from the bottom of the pond and stick them in the tree and say, there, this is where you're going to live now. No, no, you can't. Because there's things that are in the bottom of the pond that meet the fish's needs. And there's things that are above the pond in the air that meet the plants or the different animals up there's needs. We call that their habitat, otherwise known as their home. It's the right living conditions that an organism needs to survive. So if I'm a fish, I bet part of my community is going to be that I need to have water. I need to have water that has oxygen in it. I need to have water that has nutrients that are on the bottom. Maybe I need to have plankton or little tiny creatures that I can eat. There's a lot of different things. So where I live, my home, is where all of the conditions are met that I can live there. It doesn't necessarily mean it's my house. Home is different than a house. Home talks about all your needs being met. When you're at your home, yes, you're living in a house, but you have a parent who's providing food for you. You have somebody else cooking, somebody else washing clothes. You have water coming up. You have so many different things. All of your needs are met. That's what a habitat is. An ecosystem can be very, very small, like under a rock, and different creatures have habitat there. Or it could be as big as a savanna, using the entire miles and miles of range. The important thing is that in an ecosystem, everybody depends on everybody else. All the organisms are depending on each other. They are depending on the abiotic environment. The animals that are living under the rock, they need to have the darkness, they need to have the moisture, they need to have the temperature down there. So there are many things that are abiotic that those creatures need. They need to have prey and predators, they need to have food. The important key point is that all the organisms depend on each other and the abiotic environment to live and thrive and survive. Okay, I'm going to leave you right here. I have an assignment for you. It is in your folder called Abiotic Environment. I believe the top of the page says Ecosystems and the Abiotic Environment. You're going to have to decide, based on what's written there, whether or not this is an organism affecting, that means causing something to happen to another organism, or abiotic factors, non-living factors, affecting organisms. Are they causing something to happen to the organism, or organisms affecting the abiotic world? Is it something that the organism's doing that's changing or affecting the abiotic environment? You're just going to label them A's or B's or C's. You can read that. Make sure that you get that done, and you watch any. Make sure your notes are all caught up to death. And I will see you later. Bye.